When you make a trip to Japan, you have the parks you have to hit. Disney, sure. Universal, of course. Fuji-Q. Well, if you love insane coasters, sure. But no park is quite as stacked as Nagashima Spaland, opening in 1964 and located in Kuwana, about an hour from Osaka and 2 hours from Tokyo, located on a peninsula in Ise Bay. You see this park coming from miles away and it just builds the anticipation. 13 coasters, rides everywhere you look, the park jutting out into the water. You might think you've left Japan and teleported to Sandusky, Ohio. I got to spend one awesome day here, and today I'm going to share my thoughts. This is my review of Nagashima Spaland, the Cedar Point of Japan. I mentioned it from the start, but the first thing you notice is the park's setting. Water on all sides, the beautiful RMC Hikuge rising up on the south side, the 318-foot Steel Dragon 2000 on the north side, the massive Ferris wheel and S&S drop tower in the middle. Some parks in Japan are set in the hills and rely on landscaping, but Nagashima is flat and mostly paved over, so aesthetically, the water is the saving grace. Nagashima Spaland is a big complex, but once you walk into the gate and realize the entire right side of the park is a water park, and the left side is the amusement park, it becomes clear the park is not very big. 13 coasters, lots of flat rides, not much space. The rides aren't really built on top of each other, aside from their pirate ships, but they are tightly packed in, so you won't be walking very far from ride to ride. It does not take long to make a lap around the park, and we had to go from Steel Dragon to Hikuge and back a couple times. These are on the opposite ends of the park, and it's maybe a 4-minute walk. The first thing you need to know before you go is the park hours. We went on a Sunday in July, and the park was open from 10 to 5:30. That's just insanely early to close a park in the summer, on a weekend. I mean, the parks in America don't even close that early on off-season weekdays, so I don't know what's up with that, but it made the day a serious challenge. And honestly, with those park hours, we really could have used a second day at the park to experience everything. We did ride all 12 coasters that were open, but had to skip most of the flat rides. No drop tower, no frisbee, no star flyer. We did get a ride in the Ferris wheel. That gives great views of the surrounding area. It's right next to Hikuge, so that's where you're gonna get some great shots. And you can see the whole park while you enjoy an air-conditioned car, so don't pass that up. Plus, it should be a walk-on, given how many cars they have. Also, they do have a first-generation Intamin drop tower, but as it seems is the case with all these in Japan, it wasn't open. It was testing a lot right before close, but never actually opened. Because of the time crunch, we focused on riding the coasters, getting re-rides on their big two. And for me, I had to take an hour to film, but that's just me. There was also no time to eat, so if you want to know about the food in the park, I can't help you there. If you find yourself strapped for time and the lines are long, you can buy priority passes for 4 of their coasters. That includes Steel Dragon 2000, Hikuge, Arashi, and Acrobat. These are 1,000 yen a piece, or about $6.50, and they sell them in kiosks in front of the rides. They do have a 1-hour time window set, and they will sell out, so just know that going in. Also, they only accept cash, so if you're used to American parks not accepting cash anywhere, here's the complete opposite. You have to be carrying cash to buy the access passes. Lucky for us, even on a summer weekend, the weather being hot and sunny, the crowds weren't that bad. I do think the heat helped us, and a lot of people opted for the water park that day and left the dry park for the true coaster fans. Hikuge had only 1 train, but that line never got long. Steel Dragon had 2 trains, and I never saw it more than a 15-minute wait. I think the longest wait was Arashi, just because of bad capacity, and that was about 25 to 30 minutes. Operations weren't terrible here. I mean, this was about halfway through my trip, and I had seen the worst of the worst Japan had to offer. So, compared to American parks, it was bad, but by Japanese standards, it was fine. The dispatches on Steel Dragon 2000 were especially slow, but that was offset by it running 2 trains. By far the worst situation was Acrobat, the last coaster we needed to ride that day, and that was because the same people operating the ride were also letting people into the queue. So instead of getting riders ready while the train was loading and dispatching, this had to be done separately, leaving an empty train in the station for several minutes on every cycle. It was the first time I saw this happen in Japan, the only time it happened at Nagashima, but funny enough, the last week of the trip, going to Parque España, Himeji Central, Washington Highland, that was the case on pretty much every ride, a painful way to cut back on staffing costs. You have your safety spiel before every ride, the op showing you posters on how to ride, reasons you shouldn't ride, and they don't load you into the station and wait by the air gates. They run the metal detection wand over you and assign your row. There were only 3 rides where I got to choose my row. That was Shuttle Loop, Jet Coaster, and Acrobat. It's one of those situations where you can pick whatever's available. If you want the front or back and it's taken, too bad. Kinda like Jackrabbit at Kennywood. But it was nice to grab whatever seat I wanted. That was extremely rare in Japan. As for lockers, it was very similar to Fuji-Q Highland. Every major ride has lockers. You aren't allowed to have anything in your pockets for just about anything. Most rides have a ride-up winding you down and checking your pockets before you get on, and you're expected to use the lockers in the station for every ride. When we think about mandatory lockers in America, you think of the paid locker banks outside the queue, or if they want to be nice, the free lockers before you enter the station. In Japan, it's basically a loose article bin on the station platform, but you get to lock it up and wrap the key around your wrist. I highly recommend carrying all your stuff in a bag and sticking that bag into the locker. Easy in, easy out. No unloading your pockets on every ride. There's only one ride, but the lockers are not in the station, and that's Hakuge. They're downstairs from the station, and they aren't double-sided like Steel Vengeance. So this poses a problem where people getting their stuff could jump back on the stairs and cut in line. But the park was smart, and before you get to the lockers, the ops give you a bracelet, and you turn that bracelet into the op assigning your row. So if you try to double dip and get a re-ride, you won't have your bracelet and they'll send you back. I mentioned the insanely short park hours, 10 to 5:30, but that's not the whole story. If you want to try and sneak into a line at 5:29 to get the last ride, you're out of luck. They close these lines early. They don't want to operate the rides past closing time. Hakuge closed their line more than 30 minutes before park close. I was trying to film it when I saw a half-full train go out 10 minutes before close, and I realized that was the last train of the night. By the time the park closed at 5:30, there were no operating rides. So, I guess, mission accomplished if you wanted to be truly done by 5:30. It just stinks when the park already closes too early and you have to deal with that also. So, please be aware of this policy and don't get burned by it. Before I rank the coasters, I want to mention our strategy. We knew time was going to be tight, but we also knew we were going to have one priority pass for Steel Dragon 2000, Hakuge, Arashi, and Acrobat. We went to Steel Dragon 2000 first, knowing we wanted to get more than one ride, and if it was running one train, the line for the world's longest coaster might be a nightmare. Luckily, that wasn't the case. Then we hit the low-capacity coasters, Ultra Twister and Wild Mouse, trying to hit those before the crowds rolled in. We saved Hakuge for later, and that served two purposes. First, our buddy Nick wanted to make it his 200th coaster, and we needed 6 coasters before that milestone. And second, we let the ride warm up for a few hours. Apparently, it does run a lot better in the afternoon compared to the morning. No surprise for a big RMC. Okay, now for the official coaster ranking. Number 12 is Peter Rabbit Coaster. This Hoei Sengyo powered coaster opened in 2012. Definitely the smallest scale coaster in the park. This twists up and down into a helix, and unlike some powered coasters, this does pick up speed, so it pulls some forces. Not a bad kids coaster, but the weakest in the park. Number 11 is Children Coaster. This is a Zero Tivoli, built in 1983, a 15-car train, so if you're in the back, you do get whipped around a little bit. More forceful than Peter Rabbit, but still, in the end, a coaster meant for kids. Number 10 is Wild Mouse. I mentioned there are 13 coasters and we only rode 12. That's because they have 2 Wild Mouse coasters, and as far as I know, they don't operate them together. We rode the left side of this mock ride standard Wild Mouse from 1996, and the first half was quite good. It had some nice laterals in the hairpin turns, but the second half was slow and disappointing. Number 9 is Corkscrew. This basic Aero double corkscrew coaster opening in 1978. At first located in the back of the park, being moved to the front in 2012. It wasn't bad, the corkscrews were very smooth. I got no headbanging. The only problem was that transition to the corkscrews. That profiling was not good and it was pretty jarring. Number 8 is Jet Coaster, the only Meiwa commuting coaster left on the planet, opening here 2 years after the park in 1966, and at first it didn't have tubular steel rails. Togo installed those in 1985. This reminds me of a steel mine train version of Woodstock Express, those family wooden coasters at Kings Island and Kings Dominion. Not very forceful, but very unique and a good experience. This also didn't even have a lap bar, only a seatbelt. Number 7 is Arashi, and if you've been to a Six Flags park in the last 8 years, you know all about this. It's just the Joker, the extended version of the SNS Free Spin, this one opening in 2017. I seem to have bad luck when it comes to flipping on a free spin. I usually end up getting 1, but this time I got 4 and I enjoyed the ride. It's not for everyone, but I don't hate these. I don't love them either, but like I said, it was enjoyable. Number 6 is Looping Star, and I got a taste of my home park halfway around the world in Japan. This is named after its model, the Schwarzkopf Looping Star, built in 1982, and it's the same exact ride as Silver Bullet at Frontier City. I got a row near the back, and I found it wasn't quite as forceful as Silver Bullet. The loop didn't have as many positives, the airtime hill at the end didn't really hit, but it was super smooth, fast-paced, and I very much enjoyed this old Schwarzkopf. Number 5 is Shuttle Loop, their other old Schwarzkopf, opening in 1980. This was my last chance to ride a classic flywheel shuttle loop. Montezuma's Revenge closing a few years ago, so I wanted to make sure I got on this to experience it one last time. I snagged the back row. The launch had some bite. The loop was great going forward and back. It was pretty much like riding Montezuma's Revenge, and that's a good thing. I hope they can keep this maintained for the long haul. Number 4 is Ultra Twister, and at last I got to ride a Togo Ultra Twister, something I've been wanting to do for a long time. Missing my chance with the one that was here in the US, but knowing if I ever got to Japan, I would have a few chances. My first shot was here at Nagashima, and it delivered. This came to the park in 1989, in the back of the park with corkscrew, moved to the front in 2012 when they built the Peter Rabbit area. This coaster has no turns, starting with a vertical lift, 85-degree drop, 3 inversions, 1 going forward, 2 backward, and even has an airtime hill with actual airtime. The roll going forward was taken very fast, the backwards ones were a lot slower, and the brakes on the switch track needed help. That was just unnecessary. If you know, you know. Number 3 is Acrobat, the B&M flyer that is a clone of Manta at SeaWorld Orlando. Still, for my money, the best flyer in the US. Acrobat arrived 6 years after in 2015 and it wasn't quite as good, not having the same setting, but still had all the great elements, running super smooth. The water effects were different but looked great, and it's just the quality flying experience. Number 2 is Steel Dragon 2000. I have a full review, check that out if you want, but here's the nuts and bolts of it. I went in hearing not so great things. The former world's tallest and still world's longest coaster at over 8,000 feet, built by Morgan and opening in 2000. I've ridden Morgan Hypers and they're not that great, so maybe this was the same. It is a flawed ride. The B&M trains run kinda rough on the Morgan track. Some of those drop angles need some help and the twister section needs to be tightened up. But man, the airtime finale was great. I was not expecting it to be that good, and that turned out to be a great ending to a long ride and left me with a good impression. I got 2 rides on this, once near the front and once in the very back. Number 1 is Hakuge, no surprise, the 2019 RMC conversion of the Intamin Monster Woody White Cyclone. Of course, it's going to be the best. I heard great things about this, and it did not disappoint. 180 feet tall, over 5,000 feet of track. This coaster looks great from the outside and rides even better. I have a full review on this also, but basically, this landed in my top 3 RMCs and top 6 overall. It was that good. It even ran great in all rows, riding front, middle, and back. The ride experience did not change that much. RMC nailed this one, and it was by far my favorite coaster in Japan. That's all I have for Nagashima Spaland. Let me know what you think of this park, if you've been here and want to add anything I've missed. And if you haven't been here, if something surprised you or confirmed something you already knew. Before you go, don't forget to drop a like, and if you're new here and love coasters, please give me a sub. I want to thank my Patreons. If you want bonus access, bonus content, and have your name listed at the end of each video, check my links below and join. Also, check out my second channel, where I post copyright-free off-ride footage. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.